All right, let's talk about the Soul Design System. Now, I know what you might be thinking, another UI kit, right? But this is something different. It's a project I'm really proud of because it's a complete blueprint for a super efficient workflow and this is the key part, finally closes that gap between design and what actually gets coded. So let's just dive right in.
So why even build this? Well, it all starts with a question I think we've all asked ourselves. Why is there still this massive gap between our designs and the final code? You know the drill, right? We create these beautiful, pixel-perfect designs in Figma, but what actually ships to users, well, it's often full of little inconsistencies. That disconnect, it just creates bugs, wastes a ton of time, and slows the whole team down.
And that was the whole mission with this project, to just eliminate that gap completely. The Soul Design System was built from the ground up to be this unbreakable bridge, a direct line from the idea in Figma to production-ready code. So you're probably wondering, how do you actually do that? Well, like any good structure, it all starts with the blueprint.
Okay, Section 1, the blueprint. You see, building a system that can actually do this isn't about just, throwing some shapes and colors on a canvas. It needs a really solid, rule-based foundation. Think of it like a real architectural blueprint that dictates every single decision from the very start. So, here's that blueprint in action. It's a super strict three-tier token architecture. Let's break it down. At the very bottom, you've got your core tokens. These are just the raw values, right? Like a specific hex code for a color or a pixel value. Then, one level up, you've got foundation tokens. These give those raw values a purpose. So instead of just a hex code, it's now color primary. And then at the very top, component tokens are what actually use those named values. The magic here is that if you need to change your primary color, you change it in one place, and that change just flows through the entire system. Instantly, safely. No more hunting down every instance.
All right, Section 2, building for automation. So that's the theory, the big idea. But how does this rock-solid foundation actually work when you're building a real component? Well, let's take a look at a classic example. Something we've all built a million times, the humble text field.
A text field seems so simple, doesn't it? But when you really start to build one that's truly production grade, the complexity just explodes. I mean, look at this. You have to think about leading icons, stacked labels, helper text, error messages, and every single one of those has its own states and rules. It gets pretty complicated really fast.
Okay, pay close attention because this slide is absolutely crucial. This is one of the key ideas. On the left, you see the traditional way you might build this in Figma, a variant property called state with an option for disabled. But look at the right. We don't do that. Instead, we have a Boolean property, basically an on-off switch, called disabled that you set to true. It might seem like a tiny little detail, but by building our Figma components to mirror how a developer would actually write the code, we are paving a perfect path for automation later. This is the whole game.
And this is what you get when you follow that meticulous, code-first approach. Boom. What you're looking at here are more than 36 variants of just the text field. Every possible state, size, and option you could ever need. And every single one is built with that same code-ready logic, which means the whole set is completely airtight and consistent.
Next up, Section 3, the zero-defect quality check. So we've built the components, but we are not done yet. Not even close. Now, every single piece goes through this incredibly rigorous quality control phase. You can think of it like a final inspection that guarantees everything is 100% production grade and follows the system's rules to the letter.
And this quote from the actual refactor checklist pretty much says it all. No raw hex values, hard-coded numbers, or magic values are permitted. This really gets to the heart of the philosophy here. It means every single property, we're talking colors, spacing, corner radius, you name it, has to be linked to a design token. No exceptions. That's how you get that absolute unbreakable consistency.
And that rule is just one small part of the whole audit. This 7-point check is incredibly detailed. We're looking at everything from making sure all the token bindings are perfect, to checking that text styles are applied correctly, to making sure interactive elements are built right. I mean, it's a deep dive. Only the components that can pass this intense level of scrutiny actually make it into the final system.
All right, Section 4. AI-powered code generation. This is it. This is the part where all that hard work, all that meticulous planning, the token architecture, the code-like properties, that intense audit, it all comes together for the grand finale. This is where we see that seamless, almost magical jump from a perfect Figma component straight into live code.
So how does this actually work? Well, it's actually beautiful in its simplicity.
We take that perfectly structured Figma component, the one with all the clean properties and token connections, and we feed it directly to an AI coding assistant. In this case, I used a tool called Claude Code. There's no manual handoff, no back and forth, no interpretation needed. The design itself is the input.
And there it is. That clean design structure becomes production-ready React code. Just like that, instantly. All that painstaking work up front means the design is no longer just a picture of the code. It's the blueprint for the code. And that gap we talked about at the very beginning? Poof, it's gone. It just vanishes.
So let's wrap this up in our final section, the impact of a perfect sync. I mean, what does this all actually mean in the real world? What are the benefits when your design file and your code base are always perfectly in sync?
Well, for one, let's just talk about scale. Look at that number, 2,282. That's how many component variants are in this system, and the crazy part is, for every single one of those, there's a direct verified one-to-one match in the codebase. We're talking about a single source of truth that's built to handle massive, enterprise-level products.
So what does a system like this actually deliver to a team? Well, three huge things. First, just incredible speed. You're going from design to a live component in minutes, not weeks. Second, you get guaranteed quality. You're basically designing away the possibility for manual errors and visual bugs. And finally, and maybe most importantly, you get seamless collaboration. Designers and developers aren't in two different worlds anymore. They're speaking the same language, working from the exact same playbook.
Which kind of brings me to this final thought. This whole process shows that a modern design system can be so much more than just a style guide or a component library. It can be the actual engine that drives production. So it really makes you think, right? In this world of AI and automation, if your design system isn't built to generate code, what is it really built for?